All right, we are live. Hello, everyone, once again. People who have joined in live from our social media platforms, who are connected with us in today's session, a warm welcome to all of you. Today's session is really going to be special because I have with me uh, Zia Ahmed, who is a passionate data scientist and a web developer working in the industry for a very long time. He has worked on multiple projects in the past. He specializes in amalgamating artificial intelligence into the software industry world and has worked multiple countries, multiple companies all across the globe. So I am very much excited. I'm pretty sure you guys will be also. So without further ado, I'm not going to waste a lot of time. Let me go ahead and pass on the mic to Zia so that he can go ahead and get this webinar kickstarted. Zia, the mic is all yours. Thank you. Zia, you can hear me, right? I am audible, right? Can anybody confirm in the chat?
Hello, Sanket. Can you hear me?
Yes, Zia, I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Sorry, I think I lost.
That's all right. That's all right. You can get started, Zia. Thank you.
Great. Welcome, everyone. As Sanket told a few things about me, I think that was too much, I believe. However, let's get started. And currently, I'll just say one line that is quite relevant to our topic today about myself. So I'm currently working as CTO, that is Chief Technical Officer in a company. Now, what is a Chief Technical Officer? I'll keep this thing as a secret right now. So you'll find out later on, because in this lecture, we are going to talk about a few steps that you have to take in order to become in order to shift from developer to architect. So in order to follow those steps, what is that one step that makes you CTO? Let's see, we'll talk about it. So overall, what is our topic today? Topic is how can we navigate our career path in software engineering industry from developer to architect. So even from topic, it is quite clear that developer is something or someone who is maybe someone junior, and architect is someone or somewhat who is relatively senior or who is enjoying more perks, right? That is why maybe people will want to become from developer to architect. So you'll find it out. Overall, in layman term, forget software engineering. Let's talk about civil engineering and the construction industry, where this architect word comes from, where this developer word comes from. So in overall civil engineering, or you can say development industry, I'm talking about the building developments. Oh, what is the difference between a building developer and a building architect? If you can understand this difference, it is more or less similar here in the software engineering industry, because this word developer and architect is coming from this civil engineering thing. So basically, we all know that who is an architect, who basically gives you the blueprint of the building, who tells you, here you will build a bathroom, here you will build a bedroom, here there will be a lawn, and blah blah blah. So this is going to be an architect. And who is a developer? Developer is the one who follows the plan that is being written or documented by the architect. Now, here is a one question. Can someone become an architect without having a knowledge or an experience of a developer? What if and still I'm not talking about software engineering for now. I'm talking about buildings. So what if an architect who has never worked as a developer, or who not know even ABC of the development, he designs a structure of a building that is not applicable or feasible to construct by the builders? Such a design would be waste of time, maybe waste of material, maybe waste of money. right? So one thing is very clear, even in construction industry, if you want to become an architect, you have to have extensive knowledge of development, and you should follow all those steps in order to become an architect. That I mean, all those steps, that all those positions who are going to follow your instructions, so that you have an experience that, okay, if I'm going to write this is going to implement in that code, right? So this is a very brief introduction of developer versus architect. Architect is basically going to give an overall blueprint of the whole project, and developer, in short, is going to implement that project. So in this webinar, I have devised a proper plan from joining the software engineering industry as a junior developer, till how you will become an architect engineer. What are those steps from finding a job, from giving the interviews, till what are the responsibilities of an architect? What are the perks an architect enjoys, or what are the risks or challenges are there in the life of an architect? And if really this life, if it is true, this life is very, um, very royal or luxurious, you'll find it out. Or maybe it is more challenging. So here is, I hope you guys can see my screen. Our following is going to be our agenda for today. First of all, we are going to talk about who is a software engineer or software developer. And let me make it very clear over here. Some people confuse this thing. What is the difference between software engineer and software developer? In short, there is no difference. There's no difference. In some companies like Google, Google, maybe in Microsoft as well, they call it software developer. And in Amazon, they call it software engineer. So it is just, you can say these are two words, but same thing. So who is a software developer or software engineer? We'll talk about it. What are the responsibilities and what are the things that a software engineer does? Then how to get started in the industry, being a junior software engineer, or maybe being an internee. How to get started? What are those steps that can help you landing a job in a software industry? And after landing a job, how your first month is going to look like. Mostly people do not have the idea, because usually students are coming from the universities and or maybe some other platforms. Education system around the globe is very different than the industry. So it is going to be, you can say, a massive change for you. So I'm going to let you know how your first month would look like for you. After first month, there will be, the next milestone is going to be your first year. There will be a difference between your first month and first year. Obviously, in first month, your industry is going to pamper you a lot, but your first year is going to be a lot more challenging than your first month. So we'll talk about it. Then I'll talk about different roles in the career. Since you have joined as a junior software engineer or maybe as an internee, now what are the roles that you will be following? For example, from junior software engineer, you'll become senior software engineer, then maybe you'll become team lead, then manager, then software architect, then CTO, blah, blah. We'll talk about all those roles in detail. And finally, what is our topic? Topic is who is a software architect. So we'll talk about all the roles that are coming between junior software engineer and the software architect. And when we will reach to the role of software architect, then we'll talk about the responsibilities that are responsibilities of a software engineer. And finally, we have established a fact that a software engineer should be very technically very sound. But being technically very sound is enough? The answer is absolutely not. It is not enough. So if you want to become a good software architect, there are some non-technical skills as well that you should possess. Finally, I'll conclude my presentation by talking about different challenges and rewards that are there for a software architect. Cool. So I hope you guys are excited to get started, and let's get started. Okay, so who is a software developer overall? What are the things that should be there in yourself if you want to become a software developer or a software engineer? So these are a few things that should be there. for you if you want to become a software developer. First of all, you should be proficient in programming language. I know next question is which programming language. So I'm not going to mention any programming language because in every industry, they guys are using different programming languages. So it really depends what programming language each industry or any particular industry or any particular software house or any particular client is preferring. So whatever industry you're joining, you should be, or whatever industry in which you're working. Right now, we are not talking about joining the industry. We're talking about you want to become a software developer, then these are the things you should have, right? I'll talk about how to join the industry later on when I'll talk about your first month. Okay, so now you are a software engineer. You should be proficient and very expert in that particular programming language that you are using. I'm not saying in such programming language that is in most trending. For example, nowadays Python is in very much trending. But if in your industry, guys are using PHP, that is very old, or maybe they're using Ruby on Rails or Java, whatever, you should be proficient in that particular language that is part of your job, right? Secondly, you should be a very good problem solver. In software industry, we don't. I mean, this word problem is basically a synonym of a question, right? So if someone gives you a question, you should be able to provide not only the answer, but a very efficient answer. There's a lot of difference between giving an answer and giving an efficient answer. For example, if there's a problem and you have written a code that executes in maybe 10 minutes, that takes 10 minutes for execution. And there is another code that takes 30 seconds in execution, then obviously the code that executes in 30 seconds is much more better, much more, someone who has written that 30-second code is much more skilled problem solver than the other one. So you should be very skilled problem solver, very efficient problem solver. Third point is very important, and people usually don't appreciate this point that much. People don't understand the importance of this point. Collaborate with other professionals in a team. I'll take a few minutes to talk about this point. This is very important because someone who has not joined the industry so far, who is still a student, they are still working on solo projects or maybe very small projects where they are collaborating with maximum 1 or 2 more people. Even if you're a very good programmer, you're a very skilled problem solver, when you will go on collaboration with other professionals, it is 100% sure that everyone in the team is technically not that much sound, how much sound you are. There will be people who are better than you. There will be people who are better than, who are worse than you. So you'll have to keep up the pace. You'll have to be, you can say, good enough to match your pace with those people who are better than you. And you should be patient enough to bear those people who are not that much good. So this is usually a very, very difficult transition for those programmers who are doing solo projects all their life. But when they come to large software industries, and you know, in software teams, there are teams of 100 people, maybe 50 people, or maybe 7 people. There are larger teams, there are smaller teams. So you obviously have to be comfortable with all of them. And when I say comfortable, I mean, you have to be consistent with the coding standards. You not only have to write your code, your own code, you also have, since you're collaborating, you also have to understand the code that your team member is writing, right? And that is one of the most challenging parts. Obviously, you can understand your own code, but it will take some time for you to understand the code that is written by someone else. And obviously, when you have to debug that code that is not written by you, that is going to be a difficult job. So you have to adjust yourself. You have to keep adjusting yourself according to your teammates. Then next point is going to be conduct testing and debuggings. Mostly in industries, there are separate teams for software quality assurance. They usually test the product that you are building. They usually debug the product that you're building. But even for those teams to work, you have to provide the points, you can say insights of your project, that this is how you have to test this project. This is how you have to debug this project, right? So not only developing the software is your job, you have to educate your quality assurance team as well that this is how you will test this project. Next part is again, document your code and projects. Again, we are talking about larger projects. If your whole project is you can say 40-50 lines of code, that is good. I mean, if you will not even write the comments, that will work because you are sole owner of your code. But if you're working in a team of 50 people, then you'll have to document each and every line of your code. That what is the intention, not only that okay, this code is doing that much. Obviously your teammate is also a programmer. He or she can understand what this line of code is doing, but you should also write the purpose of that line, that I'm writing this line with that intention, right? This was the requirement of the client and I'm writing this line to meet that requirement, right? So this kind of a documentation is very important, very much required in order to collaborate with other team members. Continuous learning and stay updated. Obviously, if you're not in our field, continuous learning is the only way of survival. The technologies that were being followed, I'm not talking about very old times, I'm just talking about 5 years ago. You can research the technologies that were being followed or being used immensely just 5 years ago, where those technologies are standing right now. So in our IT field, in our software engineering field, continuous learning is the way of survival, not the way of progress. Obviously, it is a way of progress, but it is a way of survival as well, right? So continuous learning and stay updated. Even in every programming language, after a few days, you will find an update. You'll find new versions. So they keep adding more new things into even programming languages. So stay updated. Then excellent communication is also required. Again, all these points that I'm talking, these points, they are referring to this one particular point, that is collaborating with the other team members. So if your communication is not that much efficient or effective, then you will not be able to communicate the requirements or the demands to your teammates. You have to be a very good communicator in order to communicate with your team members. Cool. Acquired domain specific knowledge. Obviously, when you're working in software industry, you're not going to work on one project for rest of your life. You're going to keep changing the projects. And whenever you shift yourself from one project to other project, the domain usually changes a lot. When I say domain, I mean the technical requirements. The tech requirements usually change a lot. For example, maybe in one project, people are working on React.js, that is the front-end framework. Maybe in another project, they are not using React.js. They're simply working on JavaScript. So you have to be, you can say, acquire good enough knowledge of the domain that you're using in that particular project, right? And that is not only good for your progress, that is also good for your efficiency as well. So if you do not have domain specific knowledge, for example, if you're working on a medical related project, you're building a website that works for some doctors or something like that. So you should have at least some idea of medical field as well, or at least you should have some consultants who are going to help you out, right? But if you're going to have consultants, that's going to be hurt your efficiency, right? You're going to talk to the doctor, then you're going to make a decision and stuff like that. But if you have knowledge by yourself, then you're not going to talk to other people and you're going to make decision at your own. Responsible. Second last point is going to be responsible for software maintenance and debugging. Software development, as you can say, half of a job. Rest of a job lies in the maintenance of the software. New requirements comes into play. Maybe your software is crashing somewhere, so you have to keep yourself attached with the product that you have developed in order to maintain that project. So maintenance is, as you can say, half of the job part that is being done by software developers or software engineers. And the last part is use version control systems. There are a lot of different version control systems available. Most famous one is GitHub. What is that? So basically, when you're working, and nowadays you can say there is a lot of trend of remote working. And if even you're not remote working, if 50 people, for example, are working in one team. So have you ever imagined how they are going to combine their codes? For example, person A is working on task A, person B is working on task B, and so on and so forth. How they are going to merge all of their tasks, how they are going to merge all of their work by end of the day. And when they're going to merge their work, maybe there will be a lot of conflicts in the work as well, conflicts in the codes as well. For example, person A and person B both have made changes to line number 10. Then whose changes should be accepted, whose changes should be rejected? All of these things are being catered by variant control systems. Specifically, the most famous one is Git. Cool. So these are the overall the responsibilities of software engineer or software developer. So we have extensively talked about the responsibilities or characteristics of a software engineer. Let's talk, and later on, after a few slides, we will also talk about the responsibilities of software architect as well, so that you can, make a comparison between both of them. In between talking about the responsibilities of software engineer and software architect, now we are going to talk about those roles that you are going to follow, those positions that you're going to follow, on which you're going to work in order to become from software engineer to software architect. So first of all, and before we talk about responsibilities, what are different types of software engineers? So there are a lot of different domains in software engineering. For example, if you talk about web development, web developer is also software engineer. And inside web development, we have backend development, we have front-end development, and if someone is doing both front-end and backend, maybe that particular person is called full stack developer. In mobile development, we have Android developer, iOS developer, and different other platforms are also available. I don't know if Windows platform is still working or not. Then there's a desktop app developer as well. So, and there are a lot of there's a list of different developers that is available, right? So all of these developers are called software developer and software engineers. Nowadays, mostly people are web developer or maybe mobile app developer. And let me tell you, I'm not going much into details since I'm working as an artificial intelligence consultant as well. So I've got a lot of expertise in AI as well. So people are really worried about whether web developers and mobile developers, they are going to keep the jobs or AI is going to eat their jobs. In short, I think every attendee in this conference, they are, I think, roughly 20 to 30 years old, or at least more than that. So I can guarantee you, at least in our lives, it is not going to happen. So, and afterwards, even if it happens, who cares? So that is just on a lighter note, right? Okay. So how to get started, first of all. So imagine yourself, you are a freshie coming out of a university and desperately looking for a job. So I'm not going to tell you how, where you can find the job. There are different platforms available. For example, if you're from a university or maybe from a platform, you can find a job by reference. Usually university professors have the references. That is one of the ways how you can find a job. Secondly, you can search on the online platforms like LinkedIn and a lot of other different platforms as well, right? I'm not talking about freelancing for now. I'm talking about proper job role, because a freshie should not do freelancing. A freshie should do a job for at least 2-3 years. That is my recommendation. So first of all, you need to find an opportunity, right? And you can find opportunity by different ways, as I discussed. Once you get the opportunity, right? Now, these are the things that you should have before getting the opportunity, right? So if you do not have these following things, you should not be looking for the opportunity as well, because you will find the opportunity, you will go for the interview, and they will reject you, right? So you should have these following things in your bag. In your bag means in your mind. So first of all, master at least one programming language. Rather than being a jack of all trades and master of none, I would say you should be master of at least one thing. At least one programming language, be it C#, C++, Python, Java, whatever. You should be very much expert on that one particular programming language, right? Because when you go for, as a freshie, when you go for an interview, no one is expect, if even that particular industry is working on, let's say, Ruby on Rails or maybe Python, right? And you're going in, they're not expect you're a freshie. Obviously, you have applied as a freshie. They are not expecting you to start working on the project the very next day. They will hire you, they will train you, and blah blah blah. So in the interview, they only analyze that if that particular person is good enough in problem solving skills or not. So whenever you have to solve a problem, obviously you have to solve a problem by using some programming language, or even if you can write a pseudocode, that is also good enough. But I would recommend you should master at least one programming language, whatever. You can choose anyone. Uh, because later on, for example, if you're very expert at Python, but industry works on Ruby on Rails, they're going to teach you Ruby on Rails, right? So that does not matter. There's no single programming language that is being used by all of the software houses, all of the industries. Every industry is preferring their own choice. Next thing is get the basics right. As a freshie, they're not going to ask you very advanced level questions, but they are expecting you to have at least basic knowledge of object-oriented programming, data structures, programming fundamentals, databases. I'm not talking about advanced level of database, but the basics of databases, how it works, what are the use cases, how to create tables, how to create databases, how to delete, perform the CRUD operations. So get the basics right. Secondly, prepare for the interview. So these things are usually going to help you out for preparing the interview. And above all, again, I say I rate communication skills at the top. Even if you know the answer that the interviewer is asking you, but if you cannot explain it, that is going to be a bad thing for you, right? So you should be very confident and very good at your communication skills. And secondly, the last thing, this is my personal advice. So usually in very first interview, you're going to fail, and that is totally fine. In initial 4 or 5 interviews, if even you will fail, that is totally fine, but improvise yourself. Because in interviews, let me tell you, usually 50, 60 or 70% questions are similar. So for example, in first interview, you have failed the interview by margin, but don't worry. List down the questions that you couldn't answer. And then right after you come out of the room of the interviewer, search for these questions, right? Search for these questions and get the answers. Because in next interview, the interviewer is going to ask almost 50 or 60% similar questions, which are going to be from these set of questions that you could not answer, but now you can answer. Let's assume even second interview, you failed, but you will fail better, right? Now, in second interview, you couldn't answer only these questions. So go ahead and search for these questions. And finally, by the end, maybe after 4 or 5 interviews, you will be good enough that you'll be able to answer all of the questions, right? That is my personal tip to you. So this is how you can get started in a software industry. Now, your first month. So first month for a freshie, first month is basically a very, so the software houses, they usually pamper their freshies a lot. So first month is going to be overall the training month. So maybe you're going to watch training videos or training demos. You're going to get familiar with the working environments, how your seniors are working. So mostly you're going to observe the people, not the whole month, but at least 2-3 weeks. It depends upon the industry, it depends upon your learning as well, how fast you're learning. And then they're going to, obviously you'll be building some dummy projects while your training part. And after that, you'll be working on test projects. They're not going to put you directly to the live projects. So they're going to give you some test projects to analyze that whether you're now after 1 month or after 2 weeks or 3 weeks, you're good enough that they should put you on the live projects, right? So they're going to give you some test projects. Those projects will be very, very, dummy projects. So maybe there will be an existing project, and they will ask you to make some changes in that project. So basically, they will be analyzing you. They will be evaluating you if they should promote you to the live projects or not, right? And after that, you'll be assigned to a team as a junior software engineer, and there will be a team lead, or usually we call it mentor, who will be keeping an eye on you. Will be keeping an eye on your coding skills and on your working ethics. And finally, they'll be giving you very small responsibilities, or maybe the dummy modules. So maybe they will be giving you such a work that has already been done by someone else, but they're just going to get you familiarized with the whole project, right? Initially, you will be getting familiarized with the whole environment of the industry. And later on, when you'll be assigned to a team, you will be getting familiarized to that particular project on which you're working, because every project in itself is a whole universe, right? I'm talking about the large projects. So it takes some time for anyone to be a part of that project. All right. So that is how your first month is going to be. You'll be basically trained to work, because in maybe 4 years of a degree, or maybe 3 years of a degree, or whatever, there are a lot of bad things that you have learned. One of those bad things is you have always worked on solo project. You have always worked on small projects. So now you're working on bigger projects. So they have to change your vision, right? Okay, now how your first year would look like. So basically, this first year is going to decide your whole career path. This first year is full of learning. Obviously, you have just joined a completely alien thing, a completely unknown thing. So you'll be learning everything. First year is full of learning. You have started from dummy projects, right? Or maybe small modules in the project. You'll be learning new tech stacks. For example, when you come to this industry, you were very good at Python, but this industry works on Java. So you'll be learning Java. So since you'll be learning a very new thing for you, so this first year is going to be in pace. It is going to be very slow because you're learning. But this first year is going to set, you can say, your level of learning. If you're a very keen learner, you're a very quick learner, you're going to progress a lot, because usually in industries, they observe a newcomer based upon his or her initial performance. So this first year is going to be very important. Obviously, in first year, again, I would say in universities, in your degrees, you have written small codes, 50 lines of code, maybe 100 or 500 lines of code. But in industry, people are working on billions of lines of codes. So initially, your coding ethics are usually, for a freshie, for a beginner, coding ethics are really bad. When I say coding ethics, let me give you an example. Usually, usually in Python, for example, I'll give you an example of Python. Usually in Python, if I want to assign some value to a variable, I would say a equals to 5, right? But a good ethic is, before and after equal to sign, we should place an empty space, right? This is a coding ethic. If you will not write this space, there is nothing wrong. Code will execute. But there are some standards, there are some unwritten standards that are being followed by the communities that you should follow. And you will be obviously, if the standards that are written, you have learned in the university, but those standards that are not written, that are being evolved with the passage of time, those standards you're going to learn in this first year, right? And obviously, if your team lead is going to give you a task and you have completed the task, that is not enough. Your mentor or your particular team lead is going to review your code. And that is the most interesting part for me, because this is where the learning happens. You have solved a problem, even if it is working fine, but your mentor or your team lead is going to tell you, this is how you can make it efficient. You can solve a problem, but team lead or mentor will tell you, this is how you can efficiently solve a problem. And this is where your progress lies, right? And finally, by the end of usually first year, they promote you to a position where, initially they are spoon feeding you, right? They're spoon feeding you. They're telling you requirements in a very layman terms. But later on, maybe by the end of first year or by the beginning of second year, they will be giving you requirements that are coming from the client or coming from the architect as it is. And now it is your responsibility to understand and implement those requirements, right? So this is how your first year looks like. Now you have become a little bit, not a little bit, but quite experienced, right? Now you know how to write. You already knew how to write code when you come to the industry, but now you know how to write an efficient code, how to translate clients' requirements into the code. Cool. All right. So let's talk about different positions that you are going to work with. So first of all, you have joined as a junior software engineer, and these positions, they really vary from industry to industry, from software house to software house. These are different from one in one software house, and these will be different in maybe some other software house. So first of all, maybe and these are overall, you can say, usually these are the positions that are, or this is the hierarchy that is being followed by every industry. So you have joined as a software engineer, as a junior software engineer. Maybe after 1 year or during first year, you will become a software engineer. Then you will become a senior software engineer, right? Now, what is a senior software engineer? It is just a software engineer, but with more experience, with more knowledge. Now, this senior software engineer does not get its code reviewed by the mentor, because now this senior software engineer is acting like a mentor. Now, this senior software engineer, maybe with the 2 or 3 years of experience, now this senior software engineer will have a few junior software engineer working under him, who are getting their code reviewed from this software engineer. Right now, you're getting the hierarchy. Then there is a tech lead that is usually, you can say, even senior than the senior software engineer. So basically, this tech lead is he's also a software engineer. And he has progressed through all these roles, from software engineers, junior software engineer, to software engineer, to senior software engineer, now tech lead. Basically, the role of tech lead is, if there is a bottleneck, or if there's a way that there's a problem on which the team is stuck. So now this is the responsibility of this tech lead to take out the junior team members from that particular problem, from that particular bottleneck, right? And then software development manager. So basically, this manager manages the teams. He manages the responsibilities amongst the team. So this manager usually gets the responsibilities from the architect. Architect says, or maybe let's not say architect, some higher authority says, well, these are the tasks that you should do. Now, this is the responsibility of manager, how he or she will distribute the tasks. Okay, so these are the front-end related tasks. These tasks should be done by this and these people in these many hours. Okay, deadlines should also be mentioned. And these are the back-end related tasks. These tasks should be done by that particular team or these particular set of people in that X period of time. And now, enforcing the correct solutions of those tasks is usually the responsibility of tech lead, but sometimes manager also gives the input, right? And finally, principal software engineer, he also, you can say, that is an extended form of a senior software development manager, just like a senior software engineer. So you can say principal software engineer is a senior manager who manages multiple teams, not one team, but multiple teams. And finally comes the role of software architect. Now, this software architect is obviously a very senior, very experienced software engineer. But the job description or the responsibilities of this software architect are quite different than the other ones, than the previous ones. So the roles that are written in green, these are the roles that will be followed by a software architect in order to become a software architect. There is no way someone joins the industry and someone says that now I am a software architect. No. One should have good enough experience in the industry. One should have being a junior software engineer, and then senior software engineer, and then tech lead, and blah, 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 in order to become software architect. Why? Because software architect is going to make some decisions, some key decisions that will be later on followed by the industry, by the junior people. Now, if architect will make such a decisions that are not feasible, that are not even possible in order to implement, then such an architect maybe is not a good architect, right? Is not a good software architect. So we'll talk about software architect, but after software architect, we have engineering manager, we have a director of engineering, and finally we have CTO or chief technical officer. And after chief technical officer, there is usually CEO, that is chief executive officer. These later three terms that are written in, I think, yellow color, maybe, I don't know what color you want to call it, brown or yellow, whatever, mixture of brown or yellow, let's call it. So basically these three positions are managerial level positions, where they usually manage the clients, manage the budgets. They usually manage things. They're not I mean, they're obviously technical people, but their main responsibility is not to work on the development thing, or is not to enforce the development thing. The main job is to, you can say, find more work, manage the clients, manage the budgets, follow the routines and stuff like that, right? So we are going to stop at software architect. That is our role, and we're not going to talk about rest of three positions over here in this webinar, right? Now, time has come. You were you started as a junior software engineer, and you became senior, you became tech lead, and finally you have become software architect. Now, how to move on? What are the responsibilities that are there for a software architect? Let's talk about these responsibilities. But before that, let me just have a sip of water. All right. So as we have discussed, major responsibility of an architect is to make a map, is to make a blueprint of the whole construction project. Now let's talk about software engineering. So in software engineering is also much like a construction project, where first of all, and again, I'm talking about larger projects. I'll always talk about larger projects, because smaller projects only works on maybe freelancing, or maybe in student final year projects, or maybe students term projects. In real world, we 99% we usually work on larger projects. And even if in freelancing you're working on small projects that are usually part of a larger project, right? So there are mostly larger projects. So in order to implement a larger project, right? For example, if someone has to build a flyover on the road, that is not a small project. That one has to make the feasibility study, that one has to talk about the budget, the labor, or blah, blah, a lot of different things. So same happens in software engineering industry as well. So first of all, they have to design software systems. So let's say a client says that clients are usually non-technical people. Again, I say usually, not always. So they are usually non-technical people. So let's say client would just say, okay, I want to build a website in which I want to do XYZ things. That's it. Now, this is the job of software architect, to dig into those requirements and maybe ask more questions, maybe interview the client more further, in order to have more knowledge about the requirements. Once requirements are complete, right? Now, architect has to design a software system. So basically, in designing the software system, in designing the software system, the architect will be talking about scalability. He'll be talking about reliability, performance, security, maintainability, and the most important part is scalability. So architect need to keep this thing in mind, that later on, or maybe after a few years, if in this website there are 100 users, now there will be 1 million users after a year. So architect have to keep all those things in mind in order to make the design of that software system, right? Next thing is defining technical requirements. So basically, and these technical requirements have to be defined to the both ends. One end is at client side and the other end is at the development side. And the middle one is the software architect. So software architect will basically be collaborating with the stakeholders, business analytics managers, the software engineers, the team leads, in order to talk about the requirements. For example, if we will get XYZ requirements from the client, or maybe the managers of the client, will be talking to the team leads. Okay, so these are the requirements, and what are your plans to implement these requirements? So basically, defining the technical requirements is also a job of software architect. Then making design decisions. And obviously, we're not talking about the designs of the designs of the building. Yeah, in softwares, we also have designs, but our designs are usually designing the frameworks, picking up the framework. There are a lot of different frameworks available in the market. For example, in web development, we have Django, we have Flask, we have Ruby on Rails, we have a lot of different frameworks. In PHP, we have PHP related frameworks. So you have a pool of frameworks. So this is the responsibility of an architect to pick up, okay, so this is the problem. This particular framework or that particular framework is going to be the most suitable one, right? Okay, so we have a lot of different choice of databases, MongoDB, SQL, NoSQL, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so SQL is going to be the good one for this particular project. So these are the decisions that are called design decisions that will be made by the software architect. Then creating documentation. Obviously, these are the large projects, and architect will not be communicating all the requirements to the further team orally, right? If he will do something like this, he will forget 10 things and he'll be communicating only 20 things and stuff like that. So in larger projects, documentation, as I said earlier as well, documentation is very important. So whatever design that is being decided, what are the requirements that were decided, everything will be documented by either software architect or maybe the managers of software architect over time. Then ensuring technical excellence. Well, this is also, I mean, mainly this is the responsibility of technical lead, to ensure that the juniors are following good standards of coding. They are maintaining high standards and stuff like that. But this is also a responsibility of architect as well, to not daily, but maybe once a month, maybe twice a month, to just randomly have a code reviews to make sure that the view that he was, or maybe you can say the overall point of view that he had in the beginning of project, that is being followed by the rest of the team members or not. So he cannot leave everything on technical lead. He should also stay in touch to maintain high technical standards, right? Then collaborating with development teams, we have talked about it earlier as well. So this architect, a software architect, will be collaborating with at one end, he will be collaborating with the clients for the requirements. At other end, he'll be collaborating with the development teams to ensure that these are the requirements that are documented. These are the frameworks with which we'll be working, and this is how we'll work, right? So he'll be collaborating with the development team as well. Conducting code reviews, not very frequently, but maybe once in a month, maybe twice in a month. That is also a part of software architect. But a tech lead or maybe a manager should very frequently conduct the code review. And again, if you're not understanding what do we mean by code review, I mean, if a junior has written a code, senior has to tell him, okay, your code is working fine, but it can be made efficient like this. Then identifying the potential risks and mitigation strategies. Obviously, if we have started a project and this project is maybe 2-3 years long, after 2-3 years, how the universe would look like, how the technical world would look like. So this is again part of responsibility of software architect in order to visualize the future, that these could be potential risks. And if we'll follow this roadmap, if we'll follow this stack, this technical stack, then these could be the risks, right? And how we can overcome. So maybe there could be a plan A, plan B, and plan C. Performance optimization, again, there could be bottlenecks where team is stuck. There could be bottleneck where the client is stuck. As I said, this architect is a middleman between a client and your team. That is a middleware, right? So he has to make sure that there is, the team and the client, they are working optimistically. And then we have researching emerging technologies. This is something that I talked about in software engineering layer as well. So this is common. So obviously, in the longer projects that are where span is 2, 3, 4, 5 years, as I said, technologies are emerging. So this architect should also doing a lot of research in order to keep himself updated about the new technologies so that they can follow the new technologies. Then collaboration with the stakeholders. Again, we have talked about it. He has to collaborate with the client and the technical teams and development teams and as well. So these two are the main stakeholders. Mentoring and uh, uh, ment mentoring and technical leadership. Obviously, there are some points where technical lead would also get stuck. So he will ask that the architect, okay, so you were the one who were driving the car. So you will tell me how to get out of it. So you were the one who chose this framework. You are the one who chose this particular database. Now we are stuck. Now you will tell me what were your view, what were your mindset at that point, right? So basically mentoring and inspiring the juniors is also part of the job. And finally, continuous improvement. That is not also part of the job of software architect, but this should be part of the job of everyone, not only in software industry, but for everyone, especially for software industry. As I said earlier, software industry is evolving in very high speed. So you have to continuously improve yourself, evolve yourself. Okay, so quickly talking about non-technical skills. Technically, we know an architect should be very good at programming languages. He should be very good at coding, very good and efficient at coding, and blah, blah, blah. All those technical things should be there that are already written in the books as well. But there are a few things that should be there in order to become a software architect. And you cannot become a software architect. Obviously, the CTO or the technical managers, they will decide, okay, let's make this particular person as the software architect. So the most important thing is communication skill. As you can imagine that this is a middleware. Software architect is a middleware between two parties. So if the communication skills are not effective, then this middleware will not work fine. For example, this middleware or the architect is getting X requirements from client, and while communication, he maybe his communication is not good enough. If communication is not good enough, those X requirements will become Y requirements when they will reach to the technical team. So communication skills should be excellent, not good, but excellent. Then leadership qualities. This architect has to lead a team of a lot of people, maybe 50 or 100 people. And remember, when you're working yourself on as a sole developer, that is totally different thing. But when you are working with a team, that is even different. And when you're mentoring a team, you're not working yourself. That is the most difficult thing, because doing something by your hand, you have a lot of control on it. But telling someone to do this thing, you do not have control on it, right? You can only instruct someone to do that. So leadership qualities should be there, and these qualities, instruction qualities, are only there in the leaders. Strategic thinking. Obviously, if a project is a longer 2-5 years long project, you have to make a long war strategy, or maybe the way you play the game of chess. You have to make a lot of, you can say, different decisions and a lot of different plans. Plan A, plan B. If plan A fails, then I'm going to go with plan B. Plan B will fail, and I'm going to go with plan C, and so on and so forth. So you should have a very good strategic thinking over here. So these are some non-technical skills that should be there. And finally, obviously, you guys want to become a software architect. That is your aim, your ambience. Aim and ambition. But this role is it? I mean, right now you're thinking that, okay, software architect don't have to write the code by himself. That's awesome. So he don't have to do anything else. But no. Here you have seen the list of tons of responsibilities that are there waiting for you when you'll become the software architect. Obviously, you'll become a software architect. There are financial perks are always there because you're most senior now. I'm not talking about financial perks over here because that are obvious. So when you'll become a software engineer, you'll have to balance both of the things, technical and managerial responsibilities. You'll have to be technical as well, and you'll have to be managerially very good as well. And these myths, I'll talk about myself. Managerial skills are way more difficult and way more important than the technical skills, right? I can I can see a lot of people in the industry who are so good at writing the codes, but they cannot work efficiently in the teams. They cannot lead even two people, right? So these are two different things. And these managerial things, they usually you learn these things with a passage of time. There is no book that can tell that can teach you these skills, right? There are different books, obviously, but it comes with experience. Managing expectations effectively, obviously, that is part of everyone's job. And then now, what are the rewards? So if you can only become the software architect if you're really you're really loving your job. If you're not loving your job, then maybe you'll stop at the position of senior software engineer, or maybe technically that's it. Because here, when you'll become architect, you have more responsibilities. You can say you have more headaches. So you'll be shaping the technical strategies. You'll be basically driving the innovations. Obviously, client has told you an overall idea. Now you have to implement it. So you'll be innovating different ways to do the same thing. So let's say uh, task A can be done by following XYZ steps, right? Now you are the one who will innovate that. Okay, I'm not going to follow XYZ steps. I'm going to follow ZXY. These steps in different ways. So the solution will be more efficient. So these are the things that you're going to innovate. You're going to have a bird eye view of overall the projects. Obviously, if the junior guy who is working in the team, he'll be only responsible for that particular one task, but you are responsible for overall whole project. You are responsible for the performance of 50 people or maybe 100 people or the people that are there in the team. So you are going to have the eagle eye view on overall the projects, right? You'll be contributing to you'll be contributing the most. Obviously, you'll not be writing the code, but the one who writes the code is not the only contributor to the project. So in my view, obviously the architect, if the architect makes a wrong decision and team has worked 1 year on that wrong decision, that 1 year work has gone into vain, right? So usually the role of architect is very risky. The decisions of architect are very risky. So this is a very challenging part uh, of the role of a software architect, right? So I hope you guys have understood what is the difference between a software developer and a software architect. A software developer usually develops the product, and software architect usually gives you the map or the blueprint or the architect of overall the system, right? And I also try to add all the steps that are usually being followed in the community in order to become a software architect. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I really hope that it was not boring, right? So that's about it. And now, second, can we open the floor for questions if we have?
Definitely, for sure. Thank you once again, Zia, for this wonderful session. And as Zia mentioned, I would like to go ahead and open the house for questions. So if anyone has anything to ask, feel free to go ahead and either type it in the chat box, or you can unmute and ask all your questions also. Thank you once again, Zia. It was really nice session that you did.
Welcome, my pleasure.
Anybody has any question, guys? While I'm waiting for your questions, let me just go ahead and scroll through the social media pages also, so that if anybody has any question coming in from, maybe on LinkedIn or Facebook, I can go ahead and take them too.
I think the attendees can raise their hand and then you can unmute the mic. This is the process, right?
Yep.
Okay, so you guys can raise the hand. You can find the raise hand button in the bottom screen, somewhere in the bottom screen.
All right, I'm just checking the social media pages. In the meanwhile, guys, if anybody has any question over here also, you can ask that. Having said that, it's pretty much easy to go ahead and start your career also if you haven't started in the world of software engineering. We Exaltus also go ahead and offer a software engineering program that is designed to go ahead and help freshers to start their career as a software engineer. So if anybody is interested in starting their career as a software engineer also, feel free to go ahead and go to our website, register for one of our programs, and we can go ahead and take this further. Judel says the discussion is very informative and clear. The speaker is excellent. Thanks, coach. And to the MC. All right, that's me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Judel. Thank you. Anybody has anything to ask? Now, one thing I would like to bring to all of you also, that software engineering is not a property of science graduates only, nor it is only for engineers. I know a lot of people who have built their career coming from a non-technical background also. I'm sure Zia would have worked with people as such. Zia would have trained people as such. So if anybody has, this in mind, that the background that I actually come from is different, do not go ahead and hold that. Okay. Anybody can go ahead and learn it. It's just basic logics that you need to understand. And Python, Java, these are all languages that we talk about. So it's just like, English, French, German, any other language that you can think of. So anybody can actually go ahead and learn it. Well, I do not see any more questions coming up. So I guess we are going to call it a day. Thank you once again, each and everyone, for attending the session.
Sanket, I would just take a minute for the sake of motivation, because you mentioned this. For those people who are not relevant to the field, I'm talking about those people who are maybe in commerce field, maybe in medical field, or financial departments. So basically, I know someone whose parents wanted him to become a doctor, to become a surgeon. So he followed the wish of the parents and he became the surgeon, a very good surgeon. And he told his parents, now you're happy? Parents said, we are happy. So he said, I wanted to become a computer scientist. So he joined the computer science field after becoming a surgeon. I'm working with him nowadays. He is a surgeon and he writes such a beautiful quotes that I believe even I cannot write. So coming from an MBBS background, coming from a medical, being a surgeon to being a developer, and obviously that is a lethal combination. If you're already from a different department and you learned how to code, how to become and if you become a developer, that is a lethal combination, because every department, every field, every faculty, they need softwares. And usually this is a bottleneck that the software engineers who are coming from maybe a technical background, for example, myself, I do not have any knowledge of medical science. So that particular doctor, he has a knowledge of medical science as well, and he knows how to code. So he can build some he can generate really beautiful ideas about how can he make softwares regarding the medical field, or maybe someone is becoming from commerce field, they can make commerce related softwares. So that is just for the sake of motivation. We're coming from different backgrounds.
That is absolutely true. See, I know a lot of people who come from social science background, who have done their masters in, people work and stuff as such, and writing beautiful code. So as I said, it's not one's property. Anybody can actually go ahead and make. And the industry is also open. I know a lot of companies that only will hire you on the basis of skill set that you have, not on the basis of the education that you did. Okay.
Yeah,
now, there's a question coming in. Is there any financial cost involved for fresher in software engineering? I guess that you're asking about the program that we are offering. Now, the program actually costs $599. However, we do have an offer going on right now that is exclusively for this Father's Day. Unlike a lot of people, we actually go ahead and want to celebrate that. So we are offering for the next 2 days, that is, if you go ahead and register today and tomorrow, we are offering the software engineering program, which is 6 months job-oriented program, 100% live with 2 months of internship in it, for only $199. So if you want to go ahead and register, you can go ahead and let us know. Let me just type in my email address also in the chat so that you have it. Anybody, if they want to go ahead and make your career in software engineering, just send me an email and I'll make sure that you're able to uh, avail that offer also, and we can go ahead and get you started also. On that note, I guess we are done for the day. If there's anybody who wants to say anything, they can. Zia, any last words from you?
The last thing is best of luck. Our industry, as I mentioned, I think dozens of times, our industry keeps evolving. So even if you are a software engineer and you will not evolve yourself, this industry is gonna kick you out. So if you are not a software engineer, that is also good news for you. So if the old software engineers are gonna get out of the field, then there's a lot of space. And even that is on a lighter note, there's a lot of space there in the software engineering industry. There are a lot of jobs over there. Just go with LinkedIn and search for the software engineering job. And even if you will search for the location of Timbuktu or maybe some alien location, you will find tons of the jobs over there. So these jobs are available everywhere. And the most important thing, you can work from everywhere. There are tons of remote jobs available. So those who like to visit different countries or different places, good opportunity.
Thank you. World is a one big place with everything connected, like a mesh. So that's the world that we live in today. It's getting smaller and smaller as the years.
Yeah.
Thank you once again, guys, for being a part of this session. I really enjoyed connecting with all of you. Sylvester says, do you have provisions, or do I say job referrals for your graduates? How can generic certificate will receive? How about this? Let me arrange a call for you, sir, from someone in our team, and they can probably guide you better. Okay. We have learners coming in from more than 60 countries. So obviously we have something in store for people coming in from all across the globe. So let's go ahead and connect personally, and I'll ask somebody to call you and get this sorted out. On that note, this is me, Sanket, signing off with Zia, and you guys have a wonderful day ahead. Bye-bye. Take care and stay safe. Thank you, guys. Bye.